Hello, my name is Dr. Sahil Momin. I am the head of strategy and projects at Startup Nation. I'm the one leading the project, Startup Nation Olympiad 225. But apart from that, I'm also a scientist, right? The word doctor means I have a PhD. I'm not an actual doctor, so if you're dying, don't call me. And this lecture, the very first in the series, is a steal. And the sole reason I'm taking this lecture is because this one is too much fun and I'm stealing it. Now, the lecture we are talking about today is idea creation, idea validation, and how to basically come up with an idea that you can create a business around. It's quite complicated because people don't know how to find a problem, how to look for solutions, how to validate those solutions, how to make sense out of it. And that's where it gets quite complicated and people struggle, right? We have about 8 to 10,000 participants now. And the most common message I get on my personal number is, sir, how do I look for an idea? Or how do I find a problem? Right? Okay, let's start there. Yeah. So, I teach with more examples. So let's do that. A lot of the students that have also shown their ideas, their decks, what they're working on, have normally done so around an app or a platform. Very few of them have actually thought of a product, a physical product that they can sell rather than a service, or any kind of value creation through models, right? When I say models, I mean business models. Now, I'm going to be constantly writing and erasing, so just follow that, right? How do we start? First, let's talk about problem identification. The best way of identifying problems is to look around you. You all come from a pedigree. When I say pedigree, it means a sense of education, the kind of schools you went to, the kind of colleges or universities you attend, the kind of families you have, the culture of the region that you come from. Then there must be a prominent industry around where you grew up. If you're watching this, let's say from Dhanbad, then you're talking about mines and mining. If you're talking from somewhere in Gujarat, or let's say, to be specific, Rajkot, right? It will be mostly around manufacturing, making machines rather than making something with machines. If you're talking from somewhere in the rural agricultural zones of India, then the culture around you is mostly around agriculture. If you come from a city, the metropolitan problems are something that affect you and influence you. So as an individual, when you evaluate your life, when you just study the society, when you take a break, take a breather, there must be something that irritates you, right? Something that irritates your family, maybe your parent, your uncle, your aunt, your grandparent, your teachers, or someone around you, to a point where they just, want to solve that problem and are willing to pay to solve that problem, right? They're two very different things. Every problem is important. You have to acknowledge that. But not every problem is something people will pay to solve. It is only the problems that people are willing to pay to solve is where you can create business from. And those businesses, and if you can create a sustainable business model out of solving that problem, that is where you can create a startup, a proper business, a working business, right? So, to identify the problem, look at the world around you, look at the people around you, look at the society around you, look at the businesses around you, right? And based on that, see the kind of struggles they are having, the kind of situations they're going through, and what are the core problems that actually influence them. Let's talk a few examples, right? Like I said, I work better with examples. If you are a farmer, or if you come from an agricultural zone, what are the problems that you face as a farmer, right? First is basic. I need to farm. So I need to plow my field, add the seeds, look for or add adequate fertilizer, tend to the crop, water it from time to time, remove any weeds or pests from the crop. Now I can do this manually by hand, or I can apply, let's say, a poison of any kind or any additive that will kill the weeds, or a herbicide for that matter, right? Or a pesticide. So two ways of doing that. Then after, let's say, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and the crop is grown, I have to harvest it. After harvesting, I have to take it. So if you are in India, if you're talking in India, then we have a local market where the farmers can bring their produce and sell it to the wholesalers, right? These are normally called APMC mandis. They're called mandis. So APMC mandis or slash markets, right? This is where they make money. But once he comes back, he now again has to prepare the field for the next crop. So get rid of any residue. And after you've gotten rid of the residue, you have to prepare the crop, prepare the farm for the next cropping. So let's say, plow the field, I add a bit of fertilizer, I let my animals to graze there. Natural fertilizer helps a bit more. So preparing. And then I start again by plowing and planting my seeds and seedlings, right? Now, when I'm putting my seeds, I also have an option of adding seedlings. So let's just add that. All right. This is an entire life cycle of the business of farming. As an individual who's looking to be an entrepreneur, who's looking for problems, you study each step. Identify what are the struggles in each of the steps, right? Let's say I want to plow the field. Traditionally, it was done using bullocks. Before that, I have no idea, maybe someone did it with hands. Now it's done mostly by tractors. What are tractors? Tractors are basically tools and equipment, a product that solves the problem of the farmer by allowing it to save time and money by plowing the field faster. Before, if he had to plow the field, he had to maybe do it himself, have a couple of bulls, tend to them throughout the year, or borrow someone else's. There he has to pay, or again have someone else do it for him. Again, pay for the labor, and it would take a lot of time. That was difficult. A tractor solved that problem, allowed him to plow his entire field in a day. Now, if I talk about an Indian focused farmers, they are majority of the Indian farmers are small and medium scale farmers, right? Which means their land holdings are not more than 2 to 3 hectares. So 4 to 5 acres or 2 to 3 hectares. 4 to 5 acres is the bed around the national average for the farming in India, which is about 1 to 1.2 hectares, not 1 to 2 hectares. So small farms. Second part is the seeds. Now, depending on the seeds that are used, I will get the final yield. The yield, the quality of the crop, all depends on the seeds or the seedlings that are used, right? The bigger problem, a very big problem with the seeds was that not all of them would germinate. When you put the seed, it has to germinate, right? For the plant to come out. Not all of them would germinate. And that would mean that when I simply go out in the field and I put my seeds everywhere, let's say if I have 70% germination rate, I would lose 30% of my crop right there and there without doing anything, because it just did not germinate. I have to go again, find the one that did not germinate, plow that bit, put it again. But it takes a week or two to just see the initial shoots. I've lost that 2-week time. All that process was quite tedious because if I plant something 2 weeks late here, Again, I'm waiting or delaying my harvesting by 2 weeks there. Does not work. So someone decided, if it's only germination that's the problem, why can't I germinate it for you in a greenhouse and I give you a seedling? Right? What does that do? It identified a problem. Problem was, let's say I had 70% germination rate, so my revenue had dropped by 30% by not doing anything, by simply the seeds not germinating. Someone said, that's a big market. If a farmer can earn up to, let's say, 100,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees, 30% loss is 30,000 rupees, which is a substantial amount for an Indian farmer. Instead, I will take the seeds. I will take small trays. I will germinate the seeds in those trays. And only the ones that get germinated, that turn into a seedling, I will sell that seedling to the farmer. The farm, obviously, there's a value addition cost. Right? I'll do all the extra effort. I get to earn a little bit. Let's say my initial cost of seeds is 15% of the entire activity. Right? Now, 30% is something that I'm losing. 15 plus 15% I'm spending on seeds. So 45% of my entire crop potential is going away. Instead, I will take those seeds, I will germinate, and I will charge 25%. Instead of 45% that was initially going, 15% on seeds and 30% on 30% when the seed did not germinate. I will now take the seeds, germinate it into small trays and sell those seedlings at 25% of the cost, saving the farmer 20% in revenue. Right? So instead of losing 30%, now he only loses 20%. I can even create further value addition. Maybe some crops don't require that much. Right? Maybe I don't have to sell it that high. Maybe the initial 15%, instead of initial 15%, I sell it for, let's say, 20% max. Right? So anyway, the farmer was paying 15% of the crop. By paying an additional 5%, he guarantees that the revenue of that initial 30% loss that he was getting, that is no longer there. He's only losing an extra 5% there. So he's saving 25%. So now, by simply adding this activity, a person who came up with the ideas of making seedlings or who developed the business of making seedlings saved farmers 25%, increased farmer income by 25%. That's a big amount. That is how you create value for people. Right? Now that's just the seedlings. Then let's talk about the next stage, the fertilizers. Right? This was something that can be done on the ground. Fertilizers are complicated. I have to make fancy big factories, have very big setup, cost is very high. So a scientist decides, you know what? When a farmer uses the fertilizer, let's say urea for that matter, because that's something everyone's aware about. When he's using urea, he has specks of urea. It comes with small granules. He's simply throwing urea granules everywhere. Plant does not require that much. Why am I fertilizing the field when I should be fertilizing the plant? Instead, I will take the urea, I will make nanoparticles out of it, I will incorporate urea into the nanoparticles, and I will let the farmer spray it only on the plant. What happened from that? Initially, if I was using, let's say, 10 kgs, now these are just random numbers, right? We're just using them for the sake. I am not an expert in agriculture. So, if initially I was taking 10 kgs of urea, by this method, I do not need to put 10 kgs of urea in the field. I only require 1 kg of urea dissolved in water and sprayed on crop. Right? Now, think about it this way. Let's say cost of urea is, I don't even know the cost of urea. Let's assume it's 30 rupees or 50 rupees, right? 50 rupees a kg. So into 50 rupees per kg, So he's spending about 500 rupees on a fee. I take only 1 kg of that. So I take 5 kg of urea. I do a bit of chemistry. I put a bit of science in there. Add another 50 rupees on top of that. I make a product, an alternative for 100 rupees. I go to the farmer. I tell him, instead of using urea, which is destroying your field, because when you use urea, you also kill a lot of natural bacteria, natural fungi that's present in the soil. Instead of using urea on the entire field, I give you a product for 200 rupees, which you can apply directly on the plant. Instead of spending 500 rupee on urea, you can spend 200 rupee on this, and still you will save money, and your land will be healthier, it will be fertile. What happened there? The scientist saved 300 rupees, let's say per acre or per field for the crop, for the farmer. So reduce the cost there. But at the same time, he prevented degradation of soil, right? Something that's a very big issue in today's world, at least in the agricultural world. He prevented soil degradation by creating an innovative product of deploying the same ingredient, urea, more efficiently directly to the source that is required, rather than, carpet bombing it everywhere. That's how you identify the innovation. So I'm sure when you go through each of these steps, at each step, you will find something that can be done. Now, these are just the basic problems that are there, right? These are not basics. These are not something that you will have the capability to solve everywhere. You are not a scientist, perhaps. Perhaps you are. So you may not be able to, develop nano urea, or you are not a mechanical engineer that can solve, that can go out there and make a tractor. What do? You've identified the list of problems. So I take a list of problems. And now I list down my skills as an individual. Right? Now I have a list of problems. Let's say I write a list of 10, 20 problems, identify them. I list down my skills that I can use to solve these problems. Now, when I talk about me as an individual, I identify a list of problems, right? And I identify the list of skills that I have that I can use. Now, I have a list of 10, 20 problems out there that I can use, that I want to solve. Obviously, I don't have the skills for everything. I write down my list of skills. Let's take me as an individual. I have a strong background in science. I can bring in, let's say, so I'm a chemist, right? I'm a polymer chemist by education and do a profession as well. I can maybe bring out solutions in chemistry. Right? But apart from just being a scientist with that kind of, I have an analytical mind. That allows me to look at things, break it down, and evaluate, identify the strategies to solve those things. So I can take a big problem, I can break it down into smaller 10 problems, and I can solve those smaller 10 problems one at a time. Hence, I solve the bigger problem. I have an analytical mind. What else do I have? I'm very good at learning. Okay. What am I not good at also is something very important. Skills I do not have, or aptitude I do not have. So something I'm not very good at is people skill. I have a very low EQ. That at least I feel so. Or I think I should work on a little bit more. Apart from that, I get obsessive over my projects. Nothing in personal life, just projects. Right? So, I look at my strengths, I look at my weaknesses, and now based on this, And based on the list of problems I have, I say, you know what? Maybe I can use my skill in analytics, right? To basically solve the problem that requires a better business model or a better value creation in terms of logistics or operations. Or maybe I can use the scientific background that I have and develop a new product, right? You may be good at coding, perhaps. I'm not very good at coding. I use Google AI Studio. I use AI for writing my code. Right? I can understand Python, but I'm not very good at it. So I rely on other people for that. But based on my core skills, I can. So I have X core skill that correlates with Y problem. So I can think of solving Y problem using my skills. Right? Now, what do you do next? You go out there and solve it? No. You validate that problem. First time founders make some of the very biggest mistakes in the early stages where they feel that whatever problem that they assume is a problem that people are facing, that target market is facing, that potential customers are facing, and that's why they'll be willing to pay for the solution. That's not true. Sometimes the problems that we are facing are problems of our own and have nothing to do with the people out there. So, whenever you found this list, the next thing that you need to go is go and talk to your potential customers. So, if we take the same example, agriculture, you need to go and talk to the farmer. What does he think? And how do you do that? Or if you're developing a software, go talk to people who will use that software. It doesn't matter which way you do it, but without talking to your customers, if you develop a product, you're developing a product for yourself. You're not developing it for the people or not for the customers. You will not be able to do a business out of that. So the next stage is to go out there and talk to people. But how do you validate it, right? Validation and just getting a social validation are two different things. Let me give you an example. Let's take an example of the nano urea we were talking about, right? I go to the farmers. I tell them, hey, you're having this problem, or your soil is degrading, you're spending a lot of money on urea. I've created a solution which delivers urea just more efficiently to the crop. What do you think about it? Would you be interested in trying something like that? Or should I even develop this? I don't know whether I should develop it. I can develop it, but should I? What do you think? If you ask that question, the first thing the farmer is going to say, oh yes, absolutely. Because people are nice. They don't want to hurt you. Right? So people will mostly say yes, and you will get a false validation. They'll say, oh yes, if it can help me improve my soil quality, if it can help me, let's say, reduce my cost in things, I will buy it definitely. Oh yeah, go ahead, do it. Don't trust it. The only thing you need to trust is the behavior of people, that they actually do, the actions rather than words. So how do you do that? What do I do? If I want to validate that, who are my customers? How do I study them? Do I always have to talk to customers and get that directly? Maybe, maybe not. So, in this case, what do you do? If I can't trust my customers to be honest with me, whom can I trust? How do I validate whether their actions how do I validate my problem or my solution or the ideas that I've come up with without always talking to my customer directly? But you do that by doing it indirectly. You study their actions by, just studying their behaviors, studying customer behavior patterns. Let me give you an example. In the nano urea case, right? Of course, you need to go out there. I go out there, I talk a lot to farmers. I ask them, hey, I developed this thing. Should it work? Should it not work? And they've all said yes. Established. Right? It's a very beautiful product, sir. You bring it, we'll use it. They'll not buy it. What I do is I go to the shop where they buy their fertilizer from. right? So instead of looking at my consumer, now who's going to be buying that bottle of nano urea from me or my tiny little fertilizer from me? Not the consumer directly. No, I'm not going to be a D2C partner. I'm going to be a B2B partner. I'm going to sell it to the retailer or the wholesaler or something. So instead of going to my consumer, I go to my customer. They're not the same thing. You'll learn more about it later. So I go to the retailer, which is my retailer in this case. And I study consumer behavior. I study consumer behavior. Of similar products. Never assume you're the only one who's ever come up with the solution for that problem. There are 10 other people who have already executed it and put it out there. Or there are 10 other people who are working on the exact same problem as you are. So no solution, no idea is unique. It's not. Even if you guys do not exist in the same circles, there is someone somewhere out there doing exactly what you are doing to solve that problem and to come up with the exact same solution, right? So someone must have done it in the past. Now maybe not to go out there and create nano urea or some shit like that, or something like that. Maybe they developed a performance enhancer for reducing stress in plants, or a microbial solution, or XY, or anything that will give you a healthier plant, right? And they sold it at around the same price range as that you are thinking about, 200 rupees, saving the same 300 rupees for the farmer, XYZ, right? Different solution, but similar pattern. And I ask the retailer, when these guys started, let's say when the company X started selling this product via you, what was the initial consumer behavior, right? Based on sales. So how many bottles were, let's say, sold in the first month, second month? Now, agriculture is a field where trust is a very big thing. So if your product works in a longer duration, people will buy it. So I take a product that was introduced, let's say 2-3 years ago, and I look the consumer behavior in the first one, the second month, third month, fourth month, year over year, the next year. Because I let's say I want to plant onions, right? If I plant my onions now, it's a 3-month crop. I do the 3 month, but after that I cannot plant my onions again. I have to wait for the next year for the same time I have to plant that onion. So in this example, I get my feedback year on year rather than month on month all the time, right? So, but I still do a month on month study, then I do a year on year study, and I do it for 2-3 years. And that's how I realize that, someone solved this problem with a different solution at a similar price point that I did, but farmers did not buy it because there was a lack of awareness. So my problem is not just solving the technical or the scientific problem out there, but the marketing was not good either. If the product works, that's how it goes on. But if the consumer is picking it up and you are getting that positive response from the farmer saying that, yeah, we do use that product. We first bought it 2 years ago and it worked well and we kept with it. So that shows you how a customer or a consumer will retain your product, right? Gives you an idea that, if a solution like that is bought and gives you these benefits, consumers will keep coming back for it. But that, when you go to the retailer and you study the data from there, you no longer trust the emotions of individuals to validate your idea or your problem for you. You trust the actual data that's out there. Right? Similar thing can happen. You don't always have to go to a retailer. There's a lot of data that is online. If you wanna, let's say, go out there and build tractors, there's data online about tractors or different types of plows and the price of a bull and everything else that you need in order to solve the plowing problem. If you want to talk about any other thing, let's say value addition in terms of the supply chain, Each market keeps a record of all the produce that is bought and sold. You just need to go there, look at those records, and these are public records. You just have to do that hard work, right? Or you can find a record online. Maybe your country keeps a database online for these kind of things. They've kept it there so that people like you can study that data and come up with different solutions to optimize it later on. There are a lot of organizations that do that as well. So just look at actual data, realistic numbers, and actions when validating a problem rather than listening to people all the time. You still need to talk to people, because without that emotional connect or without understanding the emotions behind it, you will not get it. So surveys are a good starting point. Do your surveys, get that initial validation. If you're getting that initial validation, then do a deeper database validation and then decide whether the product will make it or the solution has value to it or not. Okay? Now, you identified the problems, you validated the problems. What do you do next? Do you just go out there and build a solution? Nope. Till now, you've only validated the fact that people will be buying or wanting a solution that you're offering in that space. Now you need to go out there and understand the market, the business side of things. A startup is a business you're creating. It needs to generate revenues in order to sustain itself. Without that, you're not a startup, you're an NGO. Right? You will just be losing money and bleeding money out there in order to sustain someone else's problem, which is fine as well. You can go down that route, but you still need to be able to manage those monies and the costs. Right? So next thing you do is you do a pricing study and cost study. By that I mean, let's take problem A, for which you have solution A. But just like you came up with solution A for the same problem, someone came with solution B or C or D. Right? Same problem, different solutions. How much now you are working on A? B is probably already deployed. How much does this cost? How much does C cost? How much does D cost? You do a cost study, a pricing study. This data will help you later on when you try to price your product as well. Let's say the cost of solution B is 100 rupees USD, whatever you want to call it. C is 200, D is 500. For the same problem, will you pay 500 rupees when you can solve it with 100 rupees? Maybe not, right? How many of you go out there and let's say if you wanna buy a chocolate, or no, maybe not consumer goods, super direct. Let's say solving a problem. Gonna buy a pen. Of course, there are people who will buy 500 rupee pen or 5,000 rupee pen. But there also majority of the people are just looking for 1 or 2 rupee pen or 10 rupee pen or 15 rupee pen. I don't even know the price of pen out there. Right? So when I look at low pricing strategy, I have a higher market that I can talk to. When I look at a higher pricing strategy, I have a smaller market that I can target. So let's say solution A, B and D has a range of 100 rupees to 500 rupees. The solution that you are bringing on the table, solution A, would cost about 200 rupees. Now what that has automatically done is that it has made you more expensive than solution B. How do you justify you being there? Right? So when you want to talk about your solution being more expensive than the existing solution, how do you justify going out there and creating an entire business around it? You focus on creating value as well. Right? You solve the problem. So let's say you have 10 issues that needs to be solved. So you list down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. You solve these 10 issues, but at the same time, you add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra benefits that consumers get if they use your product, which is priced a bit higher. Okay. In case of chocolates, if you look at it, I can buy a toffee or I can buy a candy, a tiny candy, but I can buy a candy that has a little jelly type thing inside, a lemon sherbet for that matter, or I can buy chocolates which have different layers on top of it. Maybe a little more, a darker chocolate inside, a lighter chocolate outside gives you a different flavor profile, right? Gives you a little value addition. You're willing to pay for that. That's where your additional value comes from, right? So now in 200 rupees, you're supposed to cater to the existing problem and add the value. You have to identify these values yourself. Now you're done with pricing, but now you do a market study. How many people out there in the last year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year bought a similar product for rupees 100? How many for 200? How many for 500 or more? It's or rupees 300 as well. Let's just add one other, right? So rupees 300, or after that we go 400 plus whatever, 400, 500, 600. So out of, let's say, a market for pen, this marker pen. If I assume this is $100 billion market, can I say that, you know what, I'm targeting $100 billion market? No, you can't. The market for marker pens is 100 billion. Your market is not 100 billion. You're targeting only a segment of that pyramid, right? So let's say rupees 100 is, this is going to be the largest segment, right? So 50% of the entire market is 100, the rupees 100 or less. For people who buy, let's say about 200 rupee, this is about 20%. The one above is 10%. And surprisingly, sometimes you will also see people who buy the more expensive ones, so 400 rupee and above, is also 20%. This is a longer queue. So you are only looking at 20% of the entire market. So your market is not 100 billion, your market is 20 billion. But this is a global market. You again have to bring it down, right? Let's say the market that you want to target is just the Indian market, which is 10% of the global market. That brings you down to 2 billion. That's the entire Indian market. But can you target India as a country? No, it's very big. It's not possible. You only target a couple of states here and there, a couple of regions here and there, which doesn't account for another 15% of, let's say, the India market, or be whatever 5% of the Indian market, right? So that brings you down. So another 5%, and that brings you down to what's that? 20, 40? No. You know, there's times when things are about 100 billion. Missing math. Sorry. Right. So your market is not 100 billion. It's 100 billion. That's the market size that you're now getting. And from that market, now when you learn this later on as well, this is called TAM, total addressable market. This is the market that you want to address in general, right? Just limiting yourself to the certain segments of India. Then there is service addressable market, SAM, which is, let's say, even within the, so let's say, so even within these few regions, you want to only focus on, let's say, one state. You don't want to focus on, largely, I will focus on 5 states. But for now, I'll only focus, or the only thing I want to target right now is one state. And that's my SAM, service addressable market. That's my limitation based on the resources and everything I have right now. Right? Which is whatever. X% of your 100 million. Then there is SOM. which is service obtainable market. What that means is the market by itself is XYZ, let's say 100 million. I broke it down. I can only target about 20% of that, so 20 million. I take that even down. I will only be able to achieve the next 10% of that 20 million market in the next 2-3 years. That's 2 million, right? Still a big number, not a problem, but that's my limitations. So I do a market study to identify the number of customers that are out there, the number of customers that I can target in the next 2-3 years, and then number of customers I can convert in the next 2-3 years. You have a list of problems. List of solution or skills that you can use to solve that problem, and you've identified 5 different solutions that you can come up with. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do you do after this? You study the market for it. Now, whatever solution you come up with, someone else may have come up with another solution for the same problem. So when you find something like that, you go out there and you study the pricing of those solutions. Let's say solution A that you bring to the table costs rupees 200. But there may be solution B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, right? Which will cost anywhere between 100 to 1000. Right? What do you do next is you look at the market. Now, when you talk about markets, they can get quite complicated. I like to take the bottom-up approach, where I just want to look at how many customers I can attain in the first year, and based on the immediate region that I'm looking at, the immediate target market, rather than looking at the global market. So what I do is I look at the market that I want to target, let's say the region I want to target, let's say my city, a few villages around it, right? And in that region, I do a study. How many people, so now the range is from 100 to 1000, right? How many people buy a product that is, let's say, 100 to 200 price range? How many go from 200 to 300? 300 to 400, and anything above 400, right? Let's say I have close to 100,000 people buying in the range of 100 to 200,000. I have 50,000 people doing this. I have another 30,000 people doing this. And I have another 20,000 people who will go about 400 rupees or more. Right? And a total market size right now that I am looking at in my immediate region is about 200,000 individuals. Right? I'm in India, so this is not a very big. So, my pricing of my solution will be somewhere between 200 to 300. So, do I consider the entire 200,000? No. I look at only my band, which is 50,000. Now, even in my band, let's say 50,000, there will be different components, different products out there, right? There will be, let's say, 5 people out there who have similar product. And they have a market share of, let's say, 20%, 10%, 30%. Some even have higher. Some have 5%. And the remainder, all the smaller ones combined, they give you somewhere about 35%. Right? Do you have, let's say, a pie chart? When I look at the pie chart, I have different segments for different things. And then I have a smaller. So this is just other segments, right? So I have product 1, product 2, product 3, product 4, product 5, and then others. I assume, no, I do a bottom-up approach, right? There's a different top-down approach also. I assume that out of the 50,000 population that I can directly cater to, I will be able to sell my product to at least 10% of that market in the first 1.5 years time or 2 years time. So I have about 5,000 customers, assuming. Now, I am selling this for rupees 200. So that brings my total to 10 lakh rupees. So 1 million, if you want to talk about it. So lakh is an Indian term. So a million rupee, right? That is my potential revenue from the first 2 years. Okay? Revenue, not profit. Now there is cost of goods. Let's say I want to make this pen. So I buy my plastic. I have my labor. I have any kind of technology that I need to put in. So let's say plus the factory that I put in. I add any kind of bills. So I have water, electricity. Then I have margins to be paid. We'll talk on margins after this. So the plastic, the ink. So I have ink as well. Right. So the ink, the plastic, all the other integrities, the labor, the tech, the bills, all that brings my entire cost of this one pen, making this one pen, which I sell it for 200 rupees. It is about 75 rupees. Right? Or let's just make it a round figure, 100 rupees. Right? Which means out of 200 rupees, when I minus 100 rupees, which is the cost of goods, I get around 100 rupees. Now, from this 100 rupees, I have to give about a certain revenue portion to the retailer because I'm not selling this pen directly to each customer, right? There's a retailer, there's a wholesaler. A generic retailer margin is somewhere about 20 to 25% of the revenue of the total price, right? So let's say 200 multiplied by 25%. That is about second. Just do that. Yeah. So 25% of that, that's 50 rupees, right? So I have 100 rupees left with me. 50 rupees is gone just to the retailer. I am left with 50 rupees. There's also a distributor who charges a little less. He won't charge, let's say 50 rupees or something like that. If he charge, let's say around 10% or 5%. 5% is something that I charge because I do it in volumes, right? So 5% of 200 rupees is still 10 rupees. So another minus 10 rupees. I am left with 40 rupees. Yeah. Now, remember I told you before that we sold about 5,000 or my total potential market in the first year is just 5,000 customers. That brings my revenue from my profit from the 2 years to about 200,000 or 2 lakh rupees. This is for 2 years, right? Divided by 2 because first year it will take some time to get the customers. I make 1 lakh rupee in the year divided by 12, or you may not even be working the entire time. So let's say I do it divide by 12. I get, what's that? Close to 8,000 rupees. 8,000 and some change on top of it. Oh. After spending 2 years setting up a factory, working hard, now assume you took the money from an investor for the factory. You earn 8,000 rupees a month. After graduating, if you get a job, you will earn 15,000 rupees of salary per month. Does that create value for you? You've solved a problem. You've created a solution. You've gone out there and given a product that can actually create value. But do those 8,000 rupees mean that much to you? You're making yourself suffer, right? Bad idea. If you can, as an individual, earn a better pay elsewhere or have a better potential elsewhere, why would you do this? The sole reason why you try something like this is that right now, your focus is those 5,000, 10,000 customers. When you scale this up further, you go to 50,000, that number increases to 80,000. You go this to 500,000, you scale it down further to 8 lakh or 800,000. Startups make money only when they scale. Initial stages, it's very difficult if you can't achieve those scales. If your unit economics does not make sense, let's say your labor cost, your cost of board, the plastic, ink, marketing cost, all of that stuff, which we did not include here at all, right? So if you include the marketing cost and everything, you don't earn any rupee. Nothing, you don't get any money. Your business model is not something that's worth it. That's where people make the biggest mistake. Just because you have a good product doesn't mean you have a good business model. Make sure that every good product can align itself with a good business model so that you, your investors, and everyone around you can make a decent amount of money for their living. Right? Investors do not want to put money on an idea which does not have potential of either scaling nor does it have any potential of generating that kind of wealth or revenue. You yourself should not be putting up that kind of effort, time and money, blood and sweat into an idea that will not do that. But there are other ways of doing it. There are better ways of doing it. Let's take the same example. Let's talk about pens today. Right? Instead of focusing on my regional market, I go global. I take all the other costs. I scale it up further. I have the potential of doing that. I get about 20%. I do some kind of supply chain management, some kind of marketing that allows me to retain 20% of my revenue cost as my net profit margin. Money I take home. Right? From the 200 rupee, I can take 20% of that. That's rupees 40. With 50,000, with 5,000, even with 5,000 customers, that's 2 lakh rupees. Oh, sorry, 20,000 rupees. Okay. Now you are going somewhere. So sometimes it's not always the business model that doesn't work out. Sometimes it's also the scale that doesn't work out. Unit economics needs to work both ways. And if your unit economic works, then you have a problem and a solution that you have validated. Now, you have, right. So now you have identified the problem, validated the problem, come up with solutions, validated the solutions, come up with a business model. And in the most pessimistic purview, validated or at least preemptively presumed the validation of your business model. What do you do next? You have an idea, you have a validated idea, you have something that people want to buy, people willing to pay, and something that you will make money from. Would you like me to give you a different example? Let's try a different example, right? Let's try making an app, because a lot of people relate more with app than pens nowadays. You have a problem, you are enough. You've identified your problem. Let's start again. Let's say you have an idea of making an app. It's great. An app that will give you, that is for, let's say, any kind of app, right? It gives you, let's say, 100 rupees. I'm not going to go into what this app does or something. Let's say your app gives you 100 rupees per customer per year. Right? That's the baseline we are going. I don't even know what business model, what problem, what solution you're going with. The cost of building the app can be anywhere between, like, if you have an in-house developer, good. If not, then it'll be anywhere between 10 lakhs to 60, 70 lakhs. Right? That is depending on how complicated your app is and whatnot. Let's take an average. For your app, the cost is 20 lakhs. Right? Plus, after the app is built, you no longer need the developers. You need 2 or 3 people who can manage it. So let's say I need 3 people to manage it. And they charge me 75,000 rupees each per month. Right? So that is about 150 to 25. To 25,000, which is 2,25,000 per month is the amount I'm paying in salary. Right? There. Apart from the salaries, I need to have an office or a location. You can work from home. Let's say we are a startup, we work from home. You have basic bills, internet, any kind of subscription, all of that. Additional 25,000 rupees for anything else miscellaneous, and that brings your total to 2,50,000. Right? You're earning 100 rupees a year from this. 2,50,000 into 12, that gives you around 2,55,000. No, sorry. What was wrong with my math today? I had no idea. I'm better at this normally. That's 24 lakhs plus. Oh shit, I'm going to use calculator today. I'm too out of mind. I'm telling you, by the time I get the calculator out there. Okay. So, you pay 2,50,000 rupees a month with salaries and expenses. Multiply that by 12. That's about 30 lakhs in expense. Or 3 million rupees for that matter. Right? You only earn 100 rupees a year from your customer. Remove the 2 zeros. You require 30,000 users. To use your app for an entire year and pay that amount. 30,000 paid customers, right? Paid users. Because normally in many cases, users are paid and unpaid as well. So you need 30,000 paid users. Only then you'll be able to break even, just to keep the lights on, keep the app running, everything. I've not included any of the marketing costs. I've not included any of the promotional costs. I've not included any of the money that will that's taken by Google Play, App Store, or anything else. I'm just talking about the core of the business. So when you go out there and think about creating an app, make sure this number works. I'm sure for many of you, this will work. If it's maybe you don't charge 100 rupees, you charge 1,000 rupees. Then my number goes from 30,000 rupees, 30,000 paid users to 3,000 paid users. That's an achievable number, right? So if your unit economic works, your idea is automatically validated. Now is the time, then you can go ahead and start building it. For the next stage, what you will need to do is allocate resource, right? To build your MVP, to get your proof of concepts, and to basically go out there and build that solution. Let's say you have taken care of your problem. So you identified your problem, you validated your problem, you've identified solutions, validated the solutions. What is the next step that you do? Do you go out there and build that app? No. You study the unit economics. You study the unit economics of the solution and the product or the service that you want to build. Let's take an example, right? You want to build an app. That's a very common thing that I get around nowadays. I want to build an app for this. I want to build an AI for the other thing, XYZ. Building an app in a country, even like India, which is very affordable, mind you, will cost you anywhere between 10 lakh rupees to 60 lakh rupees, about 70 lakh rupees even. Right? Let's take you're on the lower end. You have a few in-house developers. You hired a few people, a contract or a consultant to help you out with things like that. It costs you 10 lakh rupees, 12 lakh rupees to build that app. Now, 10 to 12 lakh rupees is a very minimum amount to build the app, a deployable app. Yeah, why not? But now you also have to maintain that app. You need quite about 2 to 3 developers, or not developers, just computer science graduates who would maintain that app for you. Charge about 75,000 rupees in salary per person. Takes you to 2,25,000 per month. Plus an additional expense of about your subscriptions, internet bills, all the other things, 25,000. Assuming you're still working from home, right? There's no office rent or anything involved. No marketing costs involved, nothing. But from your app, now you have to generate that revenue, right? Because 2,20,000 or 2,50,000 per month is about 30 lakh rupees per year. A big amount, especially for an early stage startup. How do you build that? How do you get big that revenue? You make it from your app, right? That's the product that you're selling. Even if you charge, so even if you charge 100 rupees per person per year, you would have to find 30,000 users who would have to be paid customers on the app, right? In order to just break even. Similarly, how? If you charge, let's say, 1,000 rupees a year or 1,200 rupees a year, 100 rupees a month, now that number goes down to less than 3,000 individuals as paid customers, right? You see the difference? Sometimes you build the same product. The product may be very good. The service may be very good. The solution is very good. It is required. The market is looking for it. The problem is something that is out there. But you are the only one who's not been able to make money out of it because your business model doesn't work, right? And not just that, but your unit economics were wrong. You thought that you would get 30,000 people in the first year. Couldn't. Focus on the 3,000. Why not? Find less than 3,000 or find 3,000 individuals that will pay you 100 rupees a month instead. Validate that unit economics and start making that money. If you have gotten to that stage where your unit economics work on paper, and this is just ideation stage, mind you, this is still idea validation. And you do this by going out there, studying the market, seeing how many people are using similar apps, how many people are using similar solutions, similar products, how many of them are being paid, how many of them are paying for that kind of product or a service. And you come up with an estimation saying that, hey, you know what? Right now, 10,000 people from my city and region are paying 100 rupees a month to solve this solution. I can do, if I can just get 30% of that market on my app from just my region and city, I'm good to go, right? 3,000 people. So if you've gotten till this stage where your unit economics tells you that even after being pessimistic about your market uptake, or about the market that you can capture, about the very little money that you think you can earn, even after that, if your sheets are showing you that, hey, I am making money out of this, good. Now your idea is validated and now you're ready to build an MVP, right? So thank you so much for your time and patience to listening to me and to help me go through all the models. And thank you for participating in the National Startup Nation Olympia. And thank you for taking part in the Startup Nation Olympia. Hopefully, I'll get to review a lot of the business models that you send my way. Looking forward to it. Thank you.